Welcome to Zen Mind Temple. Tonight, you will discover a powerful secret, the inner peace that the Buddha realized under the Bodhi tree thousands of years ago still nourishes countless lives. Over the next 3 hours, let us traverse the forest of time, washing our weary souls in the stream of Zen stories. Adjust your pillow, let your body fully relax in a comfortable nook, and now take a deep breath with me. Inhale to feel fresh air fill your chest. Exhale to release all tense thoughts. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a small, sun-dappled garden in the outskirts of Kyoto. The air carries the soft scent of jasmine and damp earth, fresh from an early morning rain. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves of an ancient maple tree, its branches heavy with the first hints of autumn color. Somewhere in the distance, a stream murmurs over smooth stones, its rhythm steady and unhurried. You feel the warmth of the sun on your shoulders, the coolness of the stone beneath your feet, and in this moment, there is nowhere else to be but here. This is the garden of Zen Master Nan In, a place where time moves like the stream, without hurry, without pause, simply as it is. You hear the soft clink of a teacup being set down on a wooden tray, and you turn to see an old monk in simple gray robes approaching. His steps are slow, deliberate, each movement precise yet effortless, as if he has spent a lifetime learning how to move without disturbing the air around him. His face is lined with the wisdom of years, but his eyes shine with the clarity of someone who has found peace in the present moment. "Come," he says, his voice like the rustle of leaves. "Let us share tea." You follow him to a low wooden table set beneath the maple tree. The table is smooth, worn by years of use, its surface polished by the hands of countless seekers who have sat where you sit now. He pours hot water into a small clay teapot, the steam rising in thin white threads that catch the sunlight before dissolving into the air. The scent of green tea fills your nostrils, earthy and fresh, and for a moment your mind quiets. No plans, no worries, just the simple act of being present. As he prepares the tea, a young scholar arrives, his footsteps hurried, his brow furrowed with concentration. He carries a stack of books under his arm, their pages filled with the wisdom of ancient philosophers. He bows to the master, his movements formal, yet respectful, and takes a seat across from you. "I have come to learn about Zen," the scholar says, his voice eager. "I have studied all the sacred texts, memorized the teachings of the great masters. Now, I wish to understand the true nature of Zen." Master Nanin nods, his expression calm. He begins to pour tea into the scholar's cup, filling it to the brims. Still, he continues to pour, the tea spilling over the edges, running down the sides of the cup and onto the table. "Stop," the scholar exclaims, leaning forward. "The cup is full. No more will go in." "Exactly," Master Nanin says, setting down the teapot. He looks into the scholar's eyes, his gaze steady and wise. "You are like this cup, filled with your own opinions and ideas. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" In this moment, time seems to stand still. The murmur of the stream, the rustle of the leaves, the scent of jasmine, all fade into the background as the master's words settle into your heart. You realize that This is not just a story about tea, but a profound teaching about the nature of learning, of understanding, of being truly alive. The Buddha once said, "When you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky." This perfection is not about the world being free of difficulties or challenges, but about seeing things as they are, without the filter of our opinions, judgments, and expectations. It is about emptying our cups so that we can receive life exactly as it is, in all its messy, beautiful, impermanent glory. In modern psychology, we might talk about this full cup as the default mode network, the part of our brain that is active when we are not focused on the outside world, when our minds wander, when we ruminate on the past or worry about the future. This network is responsible for our sense of self, for constructing narratives about who we are and what our lives mean. While this is an important part of being human, it can also be the source of much suffering. When our cups are too full of these narratives, we cannot see reality clearly. We see only our own reflections. Anxiety, that persistent feeling of unease or worry, often arises from this full cup. We become trapped in thoughts about what might happen, what we should have done, what others might think of us. These thoughts are not reality. They are just the contents of our cup. And like the tea that's spilled over the edges, they overflow into our lives, creating tension, stress, and discontent. The practice of emptying the cup is what the Zen masters call beginner's mind, Shoshin in Japanese. Shoshin refers to having an attitude of openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions when studying a subject, even when studying at an advanced level, just as a beginner would. It is the recognition that no matter how much we know, there is always more to learn, more to see, more to experience. When we cultivate beginner's mind, we step out of the default mode network and into the present moment. We become aware of our thoughts and feelings without being consumed by them. We see the world as if for the first time, fresh, alive, full of possibility. This is not a state of ignorance, but a state of wisdom, a wisdom that recognizes the limitations of our knowledge and the boundlessness of reality. Think about the last time you tried something new, a new hobby, a new language, a new place. In those initial moments, before you had formed opinions or expectations, there was a sense of wonder, of openness. You were fully present, absorbing every detail, every sensation. This is beginner's mind. It is a state of pure awareness, unclouded by the past or the future. The scholar in Master Nanin's garden was filled with knowledge, but he lacked this beginner's mind. He thought he was coming to learn something new, but in reality, he was only looking for confirmation of what he already knew. His cup was so full that there was no room for the living, breathing wisdom of Zen, wisdom that cannot be contained in books or words, but must be experienced directly. So what does it mean to empty your cup in your own life? It means approaching each moment with curiosity rather than certainty. It means letting go of the need to be right, to have all the answers, to control every outcome. It means being willing to be vulnerable, to admit that you don't know, to open yourself up to new possibilities. This is not always easy. Our minds are wired to seek patterns, to make predictions, to construct narratives that help us make sense of the world. But these narratives are just maps. They are not the territory itself. When we confuse the map with the territory, we lose touch with reality. We become trapped in a world of our own making, a world that is often smaller, more fearsome, and less alive than the world as it is. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment to things, to people, to ideas, to our own sense of self. This attachment is like holding tightly to the contents of our cup, afraid to let go, afraid that if we empty it, we will have nothing left. But the opposite is true. When we let go, we make space for something new, something more alive, something more real. In the same way that the scholar had to empty his cup to receive the teachings of Zen, we must empty our cups to receive the gifts of life. These gifts are not found in the past or the future, but in the present moment, in the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of a bird's song, the taste of a cup of tea, the smile of a stranger. Now, let's take a moment to practice emptying our cups. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or simply soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs completely, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. As you breathe in, imagine that you're drawing in fresh, clean air that is full of possibility, full of life. As you breathe out, imagine that you are releasing all the thoughts, worries, and expectations that fill your cup. With each inhale, feel your cup growing lighter, more open. With each exhale, feel the tension in your body melting away, the clutter in your mind clearing. You don't need to force anything. Just let the breath do the work. Let it carry away whatever no longer serves you, whatever is keeping you from being fully present in this moment. Notice how it feels to have an empty cup, not a cup that is empty because it has been drained, but a cup that is empty because it is open, ready to receive. This is the state of beginner's mind, the state of pure awareness, unclouded by the past or the future. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the wisdom of the empty cup, recognizing that everything in life is constantly changing, that nothing is fixed or permanent. When we cling to the contents of our cup, we suffer because we are trying to hold on to something that is already slipping away. When we empty our cup, we free ourselves from this suffering. We learn to flow with life, to adapt to change, to find peace in the midst of impermanence. In modern life, we are constantly bombarded with information, with opinions, with expectations. Our cups are filled to overflowing, and we barely even notice. We scroll through social media, consuming endless posts and comments, adding more and more to our already full cups. We listen to the news, filled with stories of conflict and division, and let those stories shape our view of the world. We compare ourselves to others, measuring our worth by external standards, and wonder why we feel so empty. But the emptiness we feel is not because our cups are empty. It is because they are filled with the wrong things. We have filled them with other people's opinions, with societal expectations, with stories about who we should be and what we should want. We have forgotten how to listen to our own hearts, how to trust our own experience, how to be present, in our own lives. The practice of emptying the cup is a practice of returning to ourselves. It is a practice of letting go of all that is not truly ours so that we can connect with what is. It is a practice of remembering that we are more than our thoughts, more than our feelings, more than our stories. We are the empty cup, the open, receptive space in which life unfolds. As you continue to breathe, imagine that your cup is resting in your hands. Feel its weight, its shape, its emptiness. This emptiness is not a void, but a potential. It is the space in which everything becomes possible. It is the ground of your being, the place where peace, joy, and wisdom reside. Now, let's bring this practice into our bodies. Notice any tension you might be holding, perhaps in your shoulders, your jaw, your chest. With each exhale, imagine that tension melting away, flowing out of your body like water from a cup. Feel your shoulders relaxing, your jaw softening, your chest opening. As your body relaxes, notice how your mind begins to quiet. The thoughts that were racing through your head slow down, like leaves floating on a calm lake. You don't need to push them away. Just let them be, and watch as they drift into the distance. This is the power of the empty cup. It is not about forcing anything, but about allowing everything to be as it is. It is about creating space. Space in your mind, space in your body, space in your life for peace to arise. The scholar in Master Nanin's garden eventually learned to empty his cup. He put down his books, let go of his preconceptions, and opened himself up to the living wisdom of Zen. In doing so, he discovered that Zen is not something to be learned, but something to be lived. It is not a set of ideas, but a way of being, fully present, fully alive, fully open to whatever life brings. You too can learn to empty your cup. It is a practice, not a destination, a practice that you can return to again and again in every moment of your life. Whether you are drinking a cup of tea, walking in the park, or simply sitting in silence, you can choose to let go of your thoughts, your worries, your expectations, and open yourself up to the beauty and wonder of the present moment. As we prepare to move on from this story, take one more deep breath. Inhale deeply, filling your cup with fresh, clean air. Exhale slowly, releasing anything that is not serving you. Remember this feeling, the feeling of an empty cup, open and ready to receive. Carry this feeling with you as we journey deeper into the forest of Zen stories, and know that no matter how full your cup may seem at times, you always have the power to empty it, to start again, to see the world with new eyes. Before we continue, let's take a moment to anchor this practice in our daily lives. This evening, when you are doing something ordinary, washing the dishes, brushing your teeth, or simply sitting, take a moment to empty your cup. Notice your thoughts, but don't get caught up in them. Feel your body, but don't judge it. Just be present, open, and aware. This is the practice of beginner's mind, the practice of Zen, the practice of peace. And remember, as the Buddha taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. This peace is not something that can be found outside of ourselves. It is already within us. waiting to be discovered. All we need to do is empty our cups and let it arise. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us journey now from the quiet garden of Master Nan Inn to a bustling monastery courtyard in Guangdong, China. The air here is warmer, thick with the scent of incense and sandalwood that drifts from the main hall. Above you, a large wooden flagpole stands tall, its surface weathered by years of wind and rain. At the top, a bright orange banner flaps gently in the breeze. Its edge is frayed, but its color still vivid against the pale blue sky. You find yourself surrounded by a group of monks, their robes a uniform gray that contrasts with the vibrant flag. They are engaged in a lively debate, their voices rising and falling like the wind that stirs the banner above them. Some are gesturing animatedly toward the flag, others pointing to the sky, their faces flushed with the intensity of their argument. "The flag is moving," one monk exclaims, his voice firm with conviction. He points emphatically at the fluttering banner, as if the movement itself is proof of his words. "No, you are mistaken," another monk replies, shaking his head. "It is the wind that is moving. The flag is merely being pushed by the wind. Without wind, it would be still." They continue back and forth, each defending their position with increasing fervor. The flag moves. The wind moves. Flag. Wind. Their voices blend with the rustle of the banner, creating a kind of chorus that echoes in the courtyard. You listen, observing the tension in their bodies, the set of their jaws, the tightness in their shoulders, as they cling to their respective viewpoints. It is as if the truth of the matter is a prize to be won, a battle to be fought, and in their struggle to be right, they seem to have lost sight of something fundamental: the simple beauty of the moment, the feel of the wind on their skin, the sound of the banner dancing in the air, the warmth of the sun on the stones beneath their feet. Just then, a soft voice cuts through the debate, quiet but resonant, like a stone dropping into still water. Neither the wind nor the flag is moving. It says, "It is your mind that is moving." The monks fall silent, turning to see who has spoken. Standing at the edge of the group is a man in simple robes, his posture humble, his eyes clear and calm. It is Hui Neng, the sixth patriarch of Zen, a man who would go on to revolutionize Buddhist thought with his teachings on sudden enlightenment. Though he was once a humble woodcutter, illiterate and unschooled in the scriptures, there is a wisdom in his gaze that transcends formal learning, a wisdom born of direct experience, of seeing things as they are. Huineng looks at each monk in turn, his gaze soft but penetrating. When you attach to the idea that the wind is moving, he says, you create a division in your mind. Wind here, flag there. When you attach to the idea that the flag is moving, you do the same. But in reality, there is no separation between wind and flag, between observer and observed. They are all part of the same moment, the same flow of life. The only movement is in your own mind, your thoughts, your judgments, your attachments. As his words settle over the courtyard, you feel a shift in the air, as if the wind itself has paused to listen. The monks stand still, their faces softening as the truth of Huineng's words begins to dawn on them. The tension in their bodies melts away, replaced by a sense of quiet awe. They have been arguing about the movement of wind and flag, but in reality, they have been arguing with their own minds, caught in a web of concepts and ideas, unable to see the world as it is, beyond words and labels. The Buddha taught all phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow. This does not mean that the world is not real, but that our perception of it is filtered through the lens of our minds, our thoughts, our beliefs, our conditioning. We see not things as they are, but things as we are. The wind and flag are simply what they are, moving, changing, arising and passing away in each moment. It is our minds that create stories about them, that attach to one explanation or another, that turn the simple flow of life into a problem to be solved. In modern psychology, this is understood as the process of cognitive appraisal, the way our minds interpret events and assign meaning to them. This process happens automatically, often outside of our conscious awareness. When we see the flag moving, our minds immediately generate an explanation. The wind is moving it. This explanation feels so natural, so obvious, that we take it for reality itself. But in truth, it is just a story, a mental construct that helps us make sense of the world. But that is not the world itself. Our emotional reactions, our anger, our fear, our anxiety, are not caused by events themselves, but by these cognitive appraisals. A situation that one person finds threatening, another may find exciting. A comment that one person interprets as an insult, another may see as a joke. The difference lies not in the situation or the comment, but in the mind's interpretation of it. This is why Huineng says that it is the mind that is moving, not the wind, not the flag. Our emotions are not responses to the external world, but to the stories our minds tell about it. Consider a situation that typically makes you anxious, perhaps giving a presentation, or having a difficult conversation, or waiting for an important decision. What if you could see that anxiety is not caused by the situation itself, but by the stories you tell about it? I will fail. They will judge me. Something terrible will happen. These are not facts. They are just thoughts, mental movements, like the wind moving the flag. And just as the wind and flag are impermanent, so too are these thoughts. They arise, they stay for a while, and then they pass away, unless we cling to them, unless we mistake them for reality. Huineng's teaching invites us to step back from these mental movements, to observe them without getting caught up in them. It is not about stopping our thoughts or suppressing our emotions, but about seeing them for what they are: transient, impermanent, empty of inherent meaning. When we do this, we discover a space between ourselves and our thoughts, a space where peace can arise. Let's take a moment to experience this for ourselves. Close your eyes again, or soften your gaze, and bring to mind a recent situation that caused you some distress, a moment of anger, frustration, or worry. It doesn't have to be a big event. Something small will do. Perhaps someone cut you off in traffic, or a colleague said something that upset you, or you forgot to do something important. As you recall this situation, notice what thoughts arise in your mind. What story Are you telling yourself about what happened? What judgments are you making about yourself or others? Now, ask yourself, are these thoughts the same as the situation itself, or are they just your mind's interpretation of it? Notice how these thoughts affect your body. Do you feel tension in your chest, or a tightness in your jaw, or a flutter in your stomach? These physical sensations are your body's response to your thoughts, not to the situation itself. Now, see if you can separate the situation from your thoughts about it. See if you can observe the thoughts as mental movements, like the wind moving the flag, without getting swept up in them. As you do this, you may notice that the emotional charge of the situation begins to fade. This is not because the situation has changed, but because your relationship to it has. You are no longer caught in the story. You are simply observing it from a place of calm clarity. This is the power of Huineng's insight. When we realize that it is our minds that are moving, we free ourselves from the grip of our thoughts and emotions. We discover that we are not our minds. We are the awareness that observes them. The Buddha said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." This is not a statement of magical thinking, but a recognition of the power of our thoughts to shape our experience of reality. If we think the world is a threatening place, we will experience it as such. If we think we are inadequate, we will act accordingly. But if we can observe our thoughts without identifying with them, we gain the freedom to choose how we respond to the world, to act from a place of wisdom and compassion, rather than from a place of fear and reactivity. In the monastery courtyard, the monks began to understand this. They realized that their argument about the wind and flag was not about the wind and flag at all. It was about their own attachment to their ideas. When they let go of these attachments, they were able to see the world with fresh eyes, to appreciate the beauty of the wind moving the flag. Without needing to explain it or control it, they discovered that peace is not found in being right, but in being present. This is a lesson that applies to every area of our lives. How often do we get caught in arguments with others or with ourselves about who is right and who is wrong? How often do we cling to our opinions, our beliefs, our ways of doing things, unable to see that there are other perspectives, other ways of being in the world? In these moments, we are like the monks in the courtyard, arguing about the wind and the flag, while life is happening all around us. Huineng's teachings remind us that the world is far more fluid and interconnected than our minds would have us believe. There is no fixed wind or fixed flag, only a dynamic, ever-changing dance of energy and form. When we try to pin it down with words and concepts, we kill its aliveness, reduce its mystery to something manageable. But life is not meant to be managed. It is meant to be experienced in all its complexity and wonder. As we continue to breathe, let's bring this awareness into our bodies. Notice the sensation of the air moving in and out of your lungs, the rise and fall of your chest, the coolness of the air on your nostrils, the warmth of your breath as it leaves your body. This is the wind of your life, moving through you, sustaining you in each moment. Now, notice the thoughts that arise in your mind, the words, the images, the stories. These are like the flag, moving and changing with the wind of your breath, the wind of your life. They are not you, but they are part of your experience, part of the dance. See if you can observe this dance without judgment, without attachment. See if you can be the space in which the wind and flag move, the awareness that is present before, during, and after each thought, each sensation, each moment. This space is your true nature, the calm, clear awareness that is never disturbed, no matter how much the wind blows or the flag moves. This evening, as you go about your life, I invite you to practice this kind of observation. Whenever you find yourself caught in a strong emotion, anger, fear, sadness, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is moving right now? Is it the world or is it my mind? See if you can identify the thoughts that are creating the emotion, and then see if you can step back from them just a little. See if you can observe them as mental movements without getting swept up in them. You might try this when you are stuck in traffic or waiting in line or having a difficult conversation. Instead of reacting automatically, take a breath and remember Huineng's words, neither the wind nor the flag is moving. It is your mind that is moving. In that moment of remembering, you will find a space, a gap between the stimulus and your response, where peace can arise. Remember, this practice is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about relating to them in a different way, with curiosity, with kindness, with awareness. It's about recognizing that your emotions are not a reflection of reality, but a reflection of your mind's interpretation of it. And because your mind's interpretation is not fixed, neither are your emotions. They are like the wind and the flag, constantly changing, constantly moving, but never defining who you are. As we prepare to leave the monastery courtyard, take one more deep breath. Inhale the scent of incense and sandalwood, and exhale any remaining tension or attachment. Feel the wind on your skin, and let it remind you of the impermanence of all things, of thoughts, of emotions, of even the most persistent stories we tell ourselves. Carry with you the wisdom of Huineng, that peace is not found in controlling the wind or the flag, but in understanding that the only movement is in your own mind. And when you can rest in that understanding, you will discover a calm that is unshakable, a peace that is always present, no matter what is happening around you. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us move now from the windswept courtyard of Huineng to a simple Shantang, Zendo, meditation hall in Jiangxi province, where the air hums with the quiet energy of dedicated practice. The wooden floors are worn smooth by the feet of countless monks who have walked here, their steps synchronized in the rhythm of daily life. Sunlight filters through paper windows, casting soft rectangles of light that illuminate motes of dust dancing in the air. The only sounds are the gentle rustle of robes, the occasional creak of a wooden beam, and the steady drip of water from a bamboo pipe into a stone basin in the corner. At the front of the hall sits Mazu Dao Yi, a Zen master whose teachings would shape the course of Zen Buddhism for centuries. His posture is upright but relaxed, his gaze soft yet alert, as if he is simultaneously grounded in the present moment and connected to something vast and timeless. Unlike some teachers who cloak their wisdom in elaborate metaphors or cryptic riddles, Mazu speaks in a language that is simple, direct, and rooted in the everyday. A young monk approaches him, his face earnest, his hands clasped in front of him. "Master," he says, his voice barely above a whisper, "I have been practicing meditation for many years, but I still feel far from enlightenment. What must I do to find the path?" Mazu looks at him with a gentle smile. "The ordinary mind is the path," he says. The monk furrows his brow, confusion clouding his features. "But what is the ordinary mind?" he asks. "Is it not the mind that is filled with desire and anger, with doubt and distraction? How can that be the path to enlightenment?" Mazu leans forward slightly, his voice warm with understanding. "The ordinary mind is the mind that arises and passes away naturally, without grasping or rejecting. It is the mind that sees a flower as a flower, a mountain as a mountain, without adding stories or judgments. It is not a special mind, a purified mind, or an enlightened mind. It is simply the mind as it is in each moment before we begin to manipulate it, improve it, or seek to replace it with something else." The monk pauses, trying to absorb these words. "But then, what is the difference between an ordinary person and an enlightened one?" he asks. Mazu shrugs slightly, as if the answer is obvious. An ordinary person clings to the mind, judges it, tries to control it. An enlightened person lets it be without attachment or aversion. The mind itself is the same. What differs is the relationship to it. As you listen to their conversation, you become aware of the simple beauty of the moment. The way the light shifts on the floor, the sound of water hitting stone, the warmth of the air on your skin. These are not extraordinary things. They are the stuff of everyday life, and yet, in this moment, they feel sacred, as if the entire universe is revealing itself in these small, ordinary details. The Buddha taught, in the sky, there is no distinction between east and west. People create distinctions out of their own minds and then believe them to be true. This is the essence of Mazu's teaching, that the path to enlightenment is not found in some extraordinary experience or transcendent state, but in embracing the ordinary, exactly as it is. We create suffering for ourselves by dividing the world into sacred and profane, spiritual and mundane, enlightenment and ignorance. But in reality, there is no such division. The ordinary is the sacred, the mundane is the spiritual, and enlightenment is simply seeing this truth. In modern psychology, this is related to the concept of mindfulness, the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Research has shown that mindfulness can reduce stress, anxiety, and depression, and improve overall well-being. But mindfulness is not just a technique or a tool. It is a way of being in the world that aligns with Mazu's vision of the ordinary mind. It is the recognition that life is happening in each moment, and that each moment is complete, perfect, just as it is. Think about your own life. How often do you rush through the ordinary moments, waiting for something extraordinary to happen? How often do you dismiss the simple pleasures? A cup of tea, a walk in the park, a conversation with a friend, as insignificant, while chasing after grand achievements or profound experiences. In doing so, you miss the very thing you are seeking, the fullness of life, which is always present in the ordinary. Mazu's teachings invite us to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, the sacred in the mundane. This does not mean that we should passively accept suffering or ignore the challenges of life. It means that we should meet each moment, whether pleasant or painful, extraordinary or ordinary, with an open heart and a clear mind, without adding layers of judgment or resistance. Let's take a moment to practice this. Bring your attention to something ordinary in your immediate experience. The sensation of your feet on the floor, the sound of your breath, the feel of your clothes against your skin. These are things you might normally take for granted, things you might not even notice. But in this moment, see if you can meet them with fresh eyes, as if you are experiencing them for the first time. Notice the texture of the floor beneath you, the coolness of wood, the softness of carpet, the firmness of concrete. Notice the way your breath feels as it moves in and out of your body. Not good or bad, just sensation. Notice the weight of your clothes, the way they hug your body, the slight rustle they make as you breathe. As you do this, you may notice that your mind wants to wander, to think about the past, the future, or something more interesting. This is natural. When you notice this happening, gently bring your attention back to the ordinary sensation you're focusing on. This is the practice of the ordinary mind, returning again and again to the present moment without judgment or frustration. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." This is not a denial of the past or the future, but a recognition that they exist only in the present moment of the mind. The past is a memory that arises now. The future is an expectation that arises now. The only reality is the present, and it is always ordinary, always here, always available. Mazu's own life exemplified this teaching. He was known for integrating Zen practice into every aspect of daily life: cooking, cleaning, gardening, even answering the call of nature. For him, there was no separation between spiritual practice and ordinary life. Washing dishes was a form of meditation. Chopping wood was a path to enlightenment, and sweeping the floor was a way of encountering the divine. This approach scandalized some of his contemporaries, who believed that enlightenment required years of ascetic practice, study, and isolation from the world. But Mazu understood that the world itself is the best teacher, that the ordinary moments of life are where we learn the most important lessons about impermanence, interconnectedness, and the nature of the mind. Consider the simple act of drinking a cup of tea. Most of the time, we drink tea while thinking about something else, planning our day, rehashing a conversation, worrying about the future. But if we can drink tea with the ordinary mind, fully present, aware of the warmth of the cup in our hands, the aroma of the tea, the taste on our tongue, then drinking tea becomes a profound spiritual practice. It becomes a way of saying yes to life, exactly as it is in this moment. The same is true for every other ordinary activity: brushing your teeth, walking to work, folding the laundry. These are not distractions from the spiritual path. They are the path. They are opportunities to wake up, to be present, to encounter life directly. The young monk in Mazu's meditation hall eventually came to understand this. He realized that he had been searching for enlightenment in some distant future, in some extraordinary experience, while it was right there in front of him, in the ordinary moments of his daily life. He began to practice with the ordinary mind, meditating when he meditated, working when he worked, eating when he ate, without trying to make anything happen, without clinging to any particular outcome. And in doing so, he discovered that enlightenment is not a destination to be reached, but a way of being to be lived in each ordinary moment. This evening, I invite you to practice with the ordinary mind. Choose one ordinary activity from your daily routine, perhaps washing your hands, eating a meal, or taking a walk, and do it with full awareness. Notice every sensation, every detail, without judgment or distraction. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back. This is not a test, and there is no way to do it wrong. It is simply a way of waking up to the fullness of life, which is always present in the ordinary. You might be surprised by what you discover. The ordinary moments, when approached with awareness, are filled with a richness and beauty that we usually overlook. They are the building blocks of our lives, and when we learn to meet them with an open heart, we discover that life itself is extraordinary. As we prepare to leave Mazu's meditation hall, take a moment to listen to the sound of the water dripping into the stone basin. Let it remind you of the ordinary moments that make up your life, each one like a drop of water, seemingly small and insignificant, but together creating something beautiful and whole. Carry with you the wisdom of Mazu, that the ordinary mind is the path. You don't need to search for anything, achieve anything, or become anything other than who you are in this moment. Peace is not found in some extraordinary future, but in the ordinary present, which is always here, always now. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us step now from the quiet stillness of Mazu's meditation hall into a dense bamboo forest on the slopes of a mountain. The air here is cool and crisp, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and fresh green shoots. Sunlight filters through the canopy of leaves above, dappling the ground with patches of gold that shift and dance as the wind stirs the bamboo stalks. The forest is alive with sound, the rustle of leaves, the chirp of birds hidden among the branches, and the gentle creak of bamboo as it sways in the breeze. Walking along a narrow path that winds through the forest are Baizhang Huaihai, a prominent Zen master and the founder of the monastic code that would shape Zen practice for generations, and one of his disciples, a young monk with a furrowed brow and a heavy heart. The monk has been struggling with grief since the death of his teacher, and he has come to Baizhang hoping to find some comfort, some understanding in the face of loss. As they walk, the monk's gaze is drawn to the bamboo around them, some tall and green, swaying gently in the wind, others brown and withered, leaning precariously or lying on the ground, slowly returning to the soil. He sighs deeply, his voice heavy with sorrow. "Master," he says, "look at these bamboo. Some are flourishing, full of life, while others are withered and dead. It seems so unfair, so arbitrary. Why is life like this? So beautiful one moment, so fragile and fleeting the next. Bai Zhang stops and turns to the monk, his eyes soft with compassion. "Look again," he says, gesturing to the bamboo. "What do you see?" The monk looks around, confusion in his eyes. "I see what I saw before. Some bamboo is alive, some is dead." Bai Zhang shakes his head slightly. "No," he says. "You see with the eyes of separation, of judgment. You label one as flourishing and good, the other as withered and bad. But in reality, they are both part of the same process, the same cycle of life. The green bamboo grows, flourishes, and eventually withers and dies, just as the withered bamboo once grew and flourished. And from the death of the old bamboo comes life. The soil is nourished, new shoots emerge, and the cycle continues." He bends down and picks up a withered bamboo leaf, holding it gently in his hand. "This leaf is not dead," he says. "It is transforming. It is returning to the earth, where it will become part of something new. There is no end here, only change, only transformation." The monk looks at the leaf in Bai Zhang's hand, then at the green shoots pushing up through the soil around them. "But what about the pain of loss?" he asks. "When someone we love dies, when something we cherish is taken from us, the grief is real. It doesn't feel like transformation. It feels like an ending." Bai Zhang nods, his expression understanding. "Grief is real," he says. "Loss is real, but the suffering comes not from the loss itself, but from our resistance to it, our refusal to accept that change is the nature of life. We cling to what is, to what was, and we cannot bear the thought of it being otherwise. We forget that life is like this bamboo, constantly growing, changing, withering, and renewing itself. There is no permanence, no stability, except change itself." He looks up at the sky, where a bird flies overhead, its wings outstretched, free and unencumbered. "The Buddha taught that all conditioned things are impermanent," he says. "This is not a curse, but a truth that can set us free if we learn to embrace it. When we accept that everything is changing, we stop clinging to what we cannot hold, and we learn to find joy in the present moment, in the beauty of what is, without fear of what will be." As you listen to their conversation, you feel a sense of calm settling over you, like a gentle rain washing away the dust of grief and resistance. You look at the bamboo with new eyes, not seeing separation, but connection, not seeing endings, but transformation. You realize that the monk's grief, like all grief, arises from a deep love, a deep connection, and that love is not lost when someone dies, but transformed, like the bamboo, into something new. It becomes a part of us, shaping who we are, guiding our steps, even when we cannot see it. In modern psychology, the pain of loss is understood as a natural response to the breaking of attachment bonds. When we form a deep connection with someone or something, our brains create neural pathways that reflect that bond. And when the bond is broken, those pathways are disrupted, leading to feelings of grief, sadness, and even physical pain. This is a normal, healthy response. It is our brain's way of processing loss and beginning to heal. But when we resist grief, when we deny the reality of loss or cling to the past, we can get stuck in a cycle of suffering. We may try to numb the pain with distractions or substances, or we may become bitter and angry, refusing to accept what has happened. This resistance only prolongs the suffering because it prevents us from moving through the grief, from allowing ourselves to heal and transform. Bai Zhang's teaching invites us to approach loss with an open heart, to allow ourselves to feel the grief without resistance, without judgment. It is not about denying the pain, but about accepting it as part of the cycle of life, part of the process of transformation. Just as the withered bamboo returns to the earth to nourish new life, so too can our grief transform into something beautiful. Compassion for others who suffer, a deeper appreciation for life, a greater capacity to love. Let's take a moment to connect with this truth, to feel the reality of impermanence in our own lives. Close your eyes and bring to mind something or someone you have lost, whether through death, separation, or change. It might be a person, a pet, a job, a home, or a way of life that is no longer yours. As you bring this loss to mind, notice the feelings that arise: grief, sadness, anger, regret. Whatever you feel is okay. Allow yourself to feel it fully, without judgment, without resistance. This is not easy, but it is necessary. Grief is a natural response to loss, and it is through feeling it that we begin to heal. Now imagine that loss as a withered bamboo leaf returning to the earth. See it not as an ending, but as a transformation. See how it has shaped you, how it has taught you about love, about life, about what matters most. See how it has opened your heart, even in pain, to the beauty and fragility of life. The Buddha said, just as a candle is lit from another candle, without the first candle being diminished, so too does life continue, transformed but not destroyed. This is the truth of impermanence. Nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. The love we feel for someone who has died does not disappear. It lives on in us, in the way we treat others, in the memories we carry, in the legacy of their life. Bai Zhang and the monk continue walking through the forest, and as they go, the monk's expression begins to soften. His steps lighten. He starts to notice the beauty around him, the way the sunlight filters through the leaves, the sound of a stream in the distance, the feel of the wind on his face. He realizes that his grief is still there, but it is no longer a heavy burden. It is a part of him, a reminder of the love he felt for his teacher, a love that will never truly die. Master, he says, his voice lighter now, I think I understand. Loss is not the end. It is a part of life, a part of the cycle. And even in the pain, there is beauty. The beauty of having loved, of having connected, of having been alive. Bai Zhang smiles, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. Yes, he says, and when you can see this, when you can accept the cycle of life and death, of growth and decay, you free yourself from the suffering of attachment. You learn to love without clinging, to appreciate without possessing, to live fully in each moment, knowing that it is precious, that it will not last. This evening, I invite you to practice accepting impermanence in your own life. Take a few moments to reflect on a loss you have experienced, whether big or small. Allow yourself to feel the grief, but also see the transformation, to recognize how that loss has shaped you, how it has opened your heart, how it has taught you about life. You might also spend some time in nature, looking at the cycles of life around you, the changing of the seasons, the growth and decay of plants, the movement of the stars. Let these remind you that impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is the very fabric of life, the source of its beauty and its wonder. As you do this, remember that accepting impermanence does not mean being passive or indifferent. It means being fully alive, fully present in each moment, knowing that it is a gift, that it will not last. It means loving deeply, living boldly, and finding peace in the midst of change. As we prepare to leave the bamboo forest, take a moment to listen to the wind in the bamboo, to feel the earth beneath your feet, to breathe in the scent of life and transformation. Carry with you the wisdom of Baizhang, that life is a cycle of growth and decay, of flourishing and withering, and that in accepting this cycle, we find peace. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us move now from the rustling bamboo forest to a quiet Zen room in the Shaolin Temple, where the air is still and heavy with a scent of aged wood and incense. The room is simple, with wooden floors polished by time, a low meditation cushion in the center, and a small wooden table in the corner, holding a single candle and a brass mirror. The mirror is old, its surface slightly tarnished around the edges, but still capable of reflecting a clear image. Sitting cross-legged on the meditation cushion is Shengxiu, a respected monk and one of the leading disciples of the fifth patriarch, Hongren. His posture is perfect, his back straight, his hands resting gently on his knees. His eyes are closed, but there is a furrow between his brows, a sign of deep concentration as he contemplates a question posed by his teacher. Write me a verse that shows you understand your true nature, and I will pass the Dharma down to you. For days, Shengxiu has been turning this question over in his mind, meditating on the nature of the self, on the path to enlightenment. He knows that the other monks expect him to provide the answer, to prove his worthiness to be the next patriarch. The pressure weighs on him, like a heavy stone on his chest. Finally, as the moon rises high in the sky, casting a silvery light through the paper window, Shengxiu opens his eyes. There is a determined look on his face as he stands up and walks to the wall of the main hall, where disciples have been invited to write their verses. With a brush in hand, he dips it in ink and writes, "Our body is a Bodhi tree. Our mind is like a bright mirror stand. We must constantly polish it, lest it be covered by dust." He steps back to read his words, a sense of relief washing over him. This verse, he believes, captures the essence of his understanding. The mind is like a mirror, which must be constantly cleaned and polished to reflect the truth. Just as a mirror covered in dust cannot show a clear image, a mind clouded by delusions cannot see its true nature. The path to enlightenment, he thinks, is one of constant effort, of diligently purifying the mind. The next morning, the other monks gather around the wall to read Shang Tzu's verse, murmuring in approval. "Wisely said," one says. "Truly, the mind must be kept pure," another adds. Shang Tzu stands among them, listening to their praise. But there is a lingering doubt in his heart, a sense that something is missing, something he cannot quite put into words. As you stand in that quiet monk's quarters, looking at the brass mirror on the table, you can almost see Shang Tzu's reflection in it. The determined monk, the earnest seeker, the man who believes that enlightenment comes through effort and purification. And yet, there is another reflection too, the reflection of a mind that is still caught in the idea of a separate self that needs to be purified, a separate mirror that needs to be cleaned. The Buddha taught, "You are what you think. All that you are arises with your thoughts. With your thoughts, you make the world." This teaching speaks directly to the connection between our self-perception and our experience of reality. Shang Tzu's verse reveals his understanding of the mind as something that can be controlled, polished, made pure, a view that reflects a certain idea of the self as a separate entity, distinct from the world around it. In modern psychology, this is related to the concept of self-schema, the mental framework we use to organize and interpret information about ourselves. Our self-schemas are shaped by our experiences, our relationships, and the messages we receive from society. They determine how we see ourselves, how we interact with others, and how we respond to the challenges of life. For Shang Tzu, the self-schema is one of a seeker, someone who must work tirelessly to overcome their flaws, to purify their mind. This schema is not inherently bad. In fact, it reflects a commitment to growth and self-improvement. But it also creates a sense of separation between the self and the world, between the mind and its contents, between the polisher and the mirror. This sense of separation is what leads to suffering. When we see ourselves as separate, we feel the need to defend ourselves, to prove our worth, to control our thoughts and emotions. We become like Shang Tzu, constantly polishing the mirror, but never quite satisfied with our reflection. We see the dust of negative thoughts and emotions as something to be feared, something that stains our purity, rather than as part of the natural ebb and flow of the mind. Let's take a moment to look into the mirror of our own minds. Close your eyes and imagine that you are looking into a mirror. What do you see? Do you see a Bodhi tree, a bright mirror stand that needs constant polishing? Do you see flaws, dust that needs to be wiped away? Or do you see something else, something whole and complete, just as it is? Notice the thoughts that arise as you look into this mirror. Are they judgmental, critical, filled with a sense of not being good enough? Or are they kind, accepting, filled with compassion for yourself as you are? These thoughts are part of your self-schema, the lens through which you see yourself. They shape your emotions, your actions, your experience of life. Shang Tzu's verse is not wrong, but it is incomplete. It captures the importance of awareness, of being mindful of our thoughts and emotions, but it misses the deeper truth that the mind is not a mirror that needs to be polished, but a mirror that is already bright, already clear beneath the dust. The dust is not something external that stains the mirror, but a temporary appearance, like clouds passing across the sky. This is the insight that Hui Ning, the illiterate woodcutter who would eventually become the sixth patriarch, captures in his own verse, written in response to Sheng Xiu's Pu Ti Ben Wu Shu, Ming Jing Yi Fei Tai, Ben Lai Wu Yi Wu, He Chu Re Chen Ai. There is no Bodhi tree, nor is there a bright mirror stand. From the beginning, there is nothing at all. Where can the dust alight? Hui Ning's verse challenges the very idea of a separate self, a separate mirror to be polished. It points to a reality beyond concepts, beyond duality, where there is no polisher and no dust, no self and no other. This is not a denial of the mind's contents, but a recognition that they are impermanent, empty of inherent existence, like reflections in a mirror. The Buddha said, "All phenomena are empty of self-nature." This means that nothing has a fixed, independent identity, including the self. Our sense of self is a construct, a story we tell ourselves, based on our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. But this story is not who we are. Who we are is the awareness that observes the story, the mirror that reflects the image without being affected by it. This understanding has profound implications for our emotional well-being. When we identify with our thoughts and emotions, when we see them as part of our fixed self, we suffer. We become attached to positive emotions, afraid of negative ones, and trapped in a cycle of craving and aversion. But when we recognize that our thoughts and emotions are just reflections in the mirror, temporary, changing, empty of inherent self, we can observe them without being swept away by them. Let's practice this together. Close your eyes again and bring to mind a difficult emotion, anger, sadness, fear, or anxiety. It might be something you are feeling right now, or something from your past. As you bring this emotion to mind, imagine that it is a reflection in a mirror. See it clearly, but remember that it is just a reflection, not the mirror itself. The mirror remains clear and unchanged, no matter what image is reflected in it. Now, ask yourself, who is observing this emotion? Who is aware of this reflection? This who is your true nature, the awareness that is prior to thought, prior to emotion, prior to the story of the self. It is the Bodhi tree that is not a tree, the mirror stand that is not a stand. It is pure, empty, and yet capable of reflecting all things. As you rest in this awareness, you may notice that the emotional charge of the feeling begins to fade. It is not that the emotion disappears, but that you are no longer identified with it. You are the space in which it arises and passes away, like a cloud in the sky. This is the practice of polishing the mirror in a deeper sense, not by trying to remove the dust, but by recognizing that the dust is not part of the mirror's true nature. It is by resting in the awareness that is always present, always clear, beneath the comings and goings of thoughts and emotions. Sheng Xiu, in time, would come to understand this deeper truth. Though his verse did not win him the position of patriarch, it served as a valuable stepping stone, a way to articulate his current understanding and open the door to further insight. He would go on to become a respected teacher in his own right, spreading a form of Buddhism that emphasized gradual cultivation, a path that, while different from Huineng's sudden enlightenment, still led to the same truth. This evening, I invite you to practice looking into the mirror of your own mind with this kind of awareness. Take a few moments each hour to pause and observe your thoughts and emotions. Without judgment or attachment, see them as reflections, not as reality. Notice the awareness that is observing them. The mirror that remains clear, no matter what, is reflected in it. You might also try writing down your own verse, a few words or phrases that capture your current understanding of yourself and your true nature. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be honest. Then, set it aside and see how it feels. Is it a reflection of who you truly are, or just a story you are telling yourself? As we prepare to leave this quiet monk's quarters, take a moment to look at the brass mirror on the table. Let it remind you that your true nature is like that mirror, clear, bright, and unchanged by the dust of thoughts and emotions. You don't need to polish it, to fix it, or to make it better. It is already perfect, already whole, just as it is. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us leave the quiet monk's quarters of Shengshu and step into the courtyard of an ancient temple nestled in the mountains. The air here is thick with the smell of rain, fresh and invigorating, as a gentle shower falls from the gray sky above. The stone steps leading up to the temple entrance are worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, their surfaces glistening with moisture. Each raindrop hits the stone with a soft, rhythmic patter, creating a soothing melody that fills the air. Standing at the bottom of the steps is a young monk, his head bowed, his robes soaked through by the rain. He has been standing here for hours, watching as the raindrops fall, one after another, onto the hard stone surface. His face is set in a determined expression, his eyes fixed on a single spot on the top step. To an outsider, he might seem like a man lost in thought, or perhaps even a little foolish, standing in the rain for no apparent reason. But to those who know him, he is engaged in a practice that has become the focus of his life. Years ago, the monk's teacher told him a story of an ancient sage who, through patience and perseverance, watched as raindrops slowly but surely penetrated a solid stone step. If you can learn the lesson of the raindrops, the teacher said, you will understand the true nature of practice. You will learn when to persist and when to let go, when to strive and when to rest. Intrigued by this story, the young monk set out to replicate the sage's experience. Each day, rain or shine, he comes to the stone steps and waits. At first, he was filled with excitement, certain that he would soon witness the power of perseverance. He counted the raindrops, measured the stone, and kept a careful record of each day's progress. But as the weeks turned into months, and the months into years, he began to grow frustrated. The stone seemed as hard as ever, the raindrops as ineffective. His determination turned to impatience, his excitement to doubt. Why is this taking so long? He mutters to himself now as the rain continues to fall. I have been patient. I have been persistent. What am I doing wrong? Just then, the sound of footsteps echoes through the courtyard. The monk looks up to see his teacher an elderly man with a serene face and a walking stick, approaching from the temple entrance. The teacher stops beside him, standing silently for a moment, watching the raindrops hit the stone, still waiting for the stone to yield. The teacher asks, his voice gentle. The monk nods, his frustration evident in his tone. I have been here for years, Master. I have watched thousands, millions of raindrops fall, but the stone remains unchanged. When will I see the fruit of my patience? The teacher smiles, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. You are looking for the wrong thing, he says. You think the lesson is about persistence, about forcing the stone to yield to your will. But that is not the lesson of the raindrops. Then what is the lesson? The monk asks, his voice filled with confusion. The teacher points to the raindrops. Watch closely, he says. The raindrop does not force its way through the stone. It does not struggle or strain. It simply falls, with no expectation, no attachment to the outcome. It gives itself completely to the moment, to the act of falling, and over time, without effort, without fanfare, it leaves its mark. He turns to the monk, his gaze steady. You, on the other hand, are filled with expectation. You are attached to the idea of the stone yielding, to the idea of your practice producing a certain result. This attachment is what causes your frustration, your impatience. You are not like the raindrop. You are like a river trying to carve a path through the stone in a single day. It cannot be done. The monk looks down at his feet, shame washing over him. So what should I do? He asks. Be like the raindrop, the teacher says. Practice without attachment to the outcome. Show up day after day, not because you expect a certain result, but because the practice itself is its own reward. Let go of your impatience, your frustration, your need to control. Trust in the process, in the natural flow of things. The stone will yield in its own time, not in yours. As you stand in that rainy courtyard, listening to the teacher's words, you feel a sense of calm wash over you, like the rain washing over the stone steps. You realize that the monk's struggle is your own struggle, that we all want things to happen quickly, to see results immediately, to control the pace of our lives. We live in a world that values speed, efficiency, and instant gratification, and we bring these values to our spiritual practice, our relationships, and our personal growth. We want to be enlightened now, to be happy now, to be perfect now. And when things don't happen as quickly as we want, we become frustrated, impatient, and discouraged. The Buddha taught, patience is the highest virtue. This does not mean passively waiting for things to happen or enduring suffering without complaint. It means cultivating a mind that is calm, steady, and free from attachment to outcomes. It means trusting in the natural rhythm of life, in the fact that growth and transformation take time, like the raindrop slowly penetrating the stone. In modern psychology, impatience is understood as a response to the frustration of unmet expectations. When we have a goal in mind, a deadline, a desired outcome, a certain level of progress, and things don't unfold as we planned, our brains release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which create feelings of anxiety, irritability, and frustration. This is a natural response, designed to motivate us to take action to achieve our goals. But when this response becomes chronic, when we are constantly impatient, constantly frustrated by the pace of life, it can lead to chronic stress, which has a negative impact on our physical and mental health. The lesson of the raindrops is about finding a balance between persistence and letting go, between taking action and trusting the process. It is about setting intentions without becoming attached to outcomes, about working toward our goals without becoming frustrated when things don't happen as quickly as we want. It is about learning to be like the raindrop, gentle, persistent, and free from expectation. Let's take a moment to connect with this balance. Close your eyes and imagine that you are a raindrop falling from the sky. Feel the freedom of the fall, the absence of effort, the complete surrender to gravity. You are not trying to reach the ground. You are just falling in this moment, fully and completely. Now, imagine that you hit the stone step. You don't bounce back. You don't shatter. You simply merge with the stone, becoming part of it. You are not separate from the stone, but part of it in this moment. There is no struggle, no resistance, just acceptance. As you hold this image in your mind, notice how it feels. Is there a sense of peace, of freedom from effort? This is the feeling of balanced action, of persisting without attachment, of working without struggle. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." This is the essence of the raindrop's wisdom, to be fully present in each moment, to give ourselves completely to what is, without worrying about what was or what will be. When we are fully present, we are like the raindrop, effective without effort, persistent without frustration, free from the burden of expectation. The young monk in the courtyard eventually came to understand this lesson. He stopped counting the raindrops, stopped measuring the stone, and started simply being with the rain, with the stone, with each moment. As it unfolded, he found that his frustration faded, replaced by a sense of peace and contentment. And though he never did witness a raindrop penetrate the stone, he realized that this was never the point. The point was the practice itself, the act of showing up, of being present, of trusting in the process. In this way, he became like the raindrop, gentle, persistent, and free. This evening, I invite you to practice being like the raindrop. Choose one activity in your life that you have been approaching with impatience, perhaps a project at work, a relationship, a personal goal, and try approaching it differently. Set your intention, take the necessary action, but let go of your attachment to the outcome. Focus on the process, on the present moment, on the joy of simply doing, without worrying about when or how it will end. You might also try a simple meditation practice. Sit quietly and listen to the sound of your breath, or the sound of rain outside, or any other steady, rhythmic sound. Each time your mind wanders to thoughts of the future, to worries about when things will happen, gently bring it back to the sound, to the present moment. This is a way of training your mind to be like the raindrop, present, persistent, and free from expectation. As we prepare to leave this rainy courtyard, take a moment to listen to the sound of the raindrops hitting the stone steps. Let it be a reminder of the wisdom of balanced action, of persisting without attachment, of working without struggle, of being fully present in each moment. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us journey now from the rainy courtyard of the ancient temple to a bustling monastery in Zhaozhou, where the air is filled with the sounds of monks going about their daily chores, chopping wood, carrying water, sweeping the courtyard. The sun is high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the stone buildings and the lush gardens that surround them. In the center of the courtyard, a large oak tree provides shade, its branches heavy with leaves that rustle gently in the breeze. Sitting beneath the oak tree is Zhaozhou Kongshen, a Zen master known for his sharp wit and his ability to cut through the conceptual thinking of his disciples with a single question. He is an elderly man, his face lined with the wisdom of years, but his eyes are bright and alert, as if he is seeing the world with the freshness of a child. Around him sit a group of monks, their faces eager with anticipation, waiting for him to share a teaching. One of the monks, a young man with a scholarly demeanor, raises his hand. "Master," he says, "the sutras say that all sentient beings have Buddha nature. Is this true? Does even a dog have Buddha nature?" Zhaozhou looks at the monk, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "No," he says simply, "a dog has no Buddha nature." The monk is taken aback, his mouth dropping open in surprise. "But master," he protests, "the sutras clearly state that all beings have Buddha nature. How can you say that a dog does not?" Zhaozhou smiles. "Why do you cling to the sutras?" he asks. "Why do you rely on the words of others instead of looking into your own heart?" Another monk speaks up. "Master, if a dog has no Buddha nature, then what does it have? What is the nature of a dog if not Buddha nature?" Zhaozhou looks at him, his gaze steady. "What was your face before your parents were born?" he asks. The monk is silent, his brow furrowed in concentration. He tries to think of an answer, but the question seems to elude him. It is not a question that can be answered with words, with concepts, with the knowledge he has gained from his studies. It is a question that cuts to the very heart of his being, to the essence of who he is. Before he was shaped by his experiences, his beliefs, his identity. As you sit beneath that oak tree, listening to Zhaozhou's questions, you feel a sense of unease, a sense that the ground is shifting beneath your feet. These questions challenge the very foundations of your understanding of yourself and the world. What is Buddha nature? Do all beings possess it? And what does it mean to ask about your face before your parents were born? It is as if Zhaozhou is inviting you to step into a void, a space beyond the concepts and categories that you use to make sense of reality. The Buddha taught, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. This teaching points to the idea that all phenomena, including ourselves, are empty of inherent, fixed identity. We are not the labels we give ourselves, the roles we play, the stories we tell. We are something more fluid, more open, more mysterious. We are like a river, constantly changing, constantly flowing, never the same for 2 moments. In modern psychology, this is related to the concept of the self as a social construct. Our sense of identity is shaped by our interactions with others, by the culture we live in, by the roles we are expected to play. We learn to see ourselves as parents, children, workers, friends, each role with its own set of expectations and behaviors. These roles are not inherently bad, but they can become limiting if we mistake them for our true nature. We can become trapped in a narrow vision of ourselves, unable to see the fullness of who we are. Identity anxiety arises when these roles are threatened, when we are faced with situations that challenge our sense of who we are. We may feel anxious when we lose a job, when a relationship ends, when we move to a new place. All situations that disrupt the familiar roles and identities that we have constructed for ourselves. We fear that without these roles, we will cease to exist, that we will be left with nothing. But Zhaozhou's question, "What was your face before your parents were born?" invites us to see that there is a part of ourselves that exists beyond these roles, beyond these identities. It invites us to connect with a deeper sense of self, a self that is not defined by what we do, by what we have, or by what others think of us. It is a self that is pure awareness, pure potential, pure being. Let's take a moment to explore this question for ourselves. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what was my face before my parents were born? Don't try to answer with words, with concepts. Just sit with the question. Let it resonate in your being. Notice what arises. You may feel a sense of confusion, of frustration, as your mind struggles to find an answer. You may feel a sense of fear as you confront the possibility of a self beyond the familiar. Or you may feel a sense of peace, a sense of relief as you let go of the need to define yourself. Whatever you feel is okay. This question is not about finding an answer, but about opening yourself to the mystery of your own existence. It is about recognizing that there is a part of you that cannot be captured in words, that cannot be reduced to a set of characteristics or roles. It is about connecting with the emptiness that is the ground of all being, the emptiness that is full of potential, full of life. The Buddha said, all beings have the Buddha nature, but it is covered by clouds of delusion. Zhaozhou's denial that a dog has Buddha nature is not a contradiction of this teaching, but a way of challenging his disciples' attachment to concepts. He is pointing out that when we ask whether a dog has Buddha nature, we are already trapped in a dualistic way of thinking. Either a dog has it or it doesn't. But Buddha nature is not something that can be possessed or not possessed. It is the very fabric of reality, the ground of all being. It is like the sky, which is not owned by anyone, but which is available to all. In the same way, our true nature is not something that we can gain or lose, something that we can have or not have. It is always present, always available, beneath the layers of concepts and identities that we have constructed. It is like the sun, which is always shining, even when it is hidden by clouds. The young monk in Zhaozhou's courtyard eventually came to understand this. He stopped trying to find an answer to the question and instead let the question work on him. Let it dissolve the conceptual barriers that were preventing him from seeing his true nature. He realized that Buddha nature is not something that can be understood with the mind, but something that can be experienced directly in a moment of sudden insight, in a moment of letting go. This evening, I invite you to sit with Zhaozhou's question. What was your face before your parents were born? Let it challenge your assumptions, your identities, your sense of who you are. Let it open you to the mystery of your own existence. to the emptiness that is full of potential. You might also try a simple practice. Throughout the day, notice the roles you are playing: the parent, the worker, the friend, and ask yourself, who am I beyond this role? This is not about rejecting the role, but about recognizing that it is not your true nature, that you are more than this. As we prepare to leave Zhaozhou's monastery, take a moment to look up at the oak tree, its branches reaching toward the sky. Let it remind you of your own true nature, rooted in the earth, but reaching toward something higher, something more vast. You're not limited by your roles, your identities, your stories. You're like this tree, constantly growing, constantly changing, but always connected to a deeper source of life. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us leave the bustling monastery of Zhaozhou and wander into a quiet valley where spring has painted the landscape in vibrant hues. The air is sweet with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sunlight filters through the canopy of trees, dappling the ground with patches of gold. A small stream meanders through the valley, its clear waters reflecting the blue sky above. Along the banks of the stream, peach trees stand in full bloom, their pink and white flowers creating a cloud-like canopy that seems to float above the ground. Walking among the peach trees is Lingyun Jijin, a monk who has spent years traveling from monastery to monastery, seeking enlightenment. His face is lined with the weariness of a long journey, but his eyes are filled with a quiet determination. For years, he has studied the sutras, practiced meditation, and sought guidance from countless teachers, but he has yet to experience the sudden awakening he so deeply desires. He feels as if he is standing on the edge of a great mystery, able to see its outline, but unable to grasp its essence. As he walks, his gaze is drawn to the peach blossoms, their beauty taking his breath away. He stops beneath a particularly large tree, its branches heavy with flowers, and closes his eyes, allowing himself to be fully present in the moment. The scent of the flowers, the sound of the stream, the warmth of the sun on his skin. When he opens his eyes, something shifts. It is as if a veil has been lifted from his perception, and he sees the world with new clarity. The peach blossoms are not just beautiful, they are a revelation, a direct expression of the Buddha nature that permeates all things. In that moment, he understands that enlightenment is not something to be found in a distant future, in a far-off place, or in a book of teachings. It is here, now, in the beauty of a peach blossom, in the flow of a stream, in the very act of breathing. With tears of joy streaming down his face, Lingyun composes a verse: 30年来寻间客，机会落谢又愁之。自从一见桃花后，直至如今更不易。For 30 years, I sought the sword of enlightenment, watching leaves fall and new shoots emerge, time and again. But since that moment, I saw the peach blossoms. From that day to this, all doubt has vanished. As you walk among those peach trees, feeling the soft petals brush against your skin and breathing in their sweet fragrance, you can sense the truth of Lingyun's realization. There is a profound simplicity to it, a recognition that the very things we spend our lives seeking, happiness, fulfillment, enlightenment, are already present in the world around us. in the ordinary moments of life. We just need to open our eyes and see them. The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, a dewdrop, a flash of lightning. This teaching is often misunderstood as a denial of the world's reality, but it is actually an invitation to see the world as it is, impermanent, interconnected, and empty of inherent existence. The beauty of the peach blossoms, the clarity of the stream, the warmth of the sun. These are not illusions in the sense that they do not exist, but they are illusions in the sense that they do not possess a fixed, independent reality. They are constantly changing, dependent on countless other factors, and their existence is intertwined with our perception of them. This is the meaning of moon and water, flower and mirror, a common Zen metaphor for the illusory nature of phenomena. When we see the moon reflected in water, we may mistake the reflection for the moon itself, reaching out to grasp it, only to find that it slips through our fingers. In the same way, we mistake the fleeting pleasures and desires of this world for something solid, something that can bring us lasting happiness, only to be disappointed when they inevitably change or disappear. In modern psychology, this is related to the concept of hedonic adaptation, the tendency of humans to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events or life changes. We work hard to achieve a goal, a promotion, a new car, a romantic relationship, believing that it will bring us lasting happiness, only to find that after a short time, we return to our previous level of satisfaction, already craving the next thing. This cycle of desire and disappointment is driven by our belief that happiness is found in external things, in the moon and water, that we can never quite grasp. Ling Yun's awakening is a recognition of this truth. He realizes that the happiness he has been seeking is not found in some external achievement or experience, but in the present moment, in the ability to see the world as it is, without the filter of desire and craving. The peach blossoms are beautiful, but their beauty is not dependent on his desire for them. They are perfect in themselves, just as they are, and his joy comes not from possessing them, but from seeing them, from being in relationship with them. Let's take a moment to connect with this truth. Close your eyes and bring to mind something you desire, a material possession, a relationship, a personal achievement. Notice how this desire feels in your body, a tightness in your chest, a restlessness in your limbs, a sense of anticipation. Now, ask yourself, will obtaining this thing bring me lasting happiness? Notice the thoughts that arise. You may tell yourself that this time things will be different, that this desire, when fulfilled, will bring you the happiness you seek. But if you're honest with yourself, you will likely recognize that this is the same pattern that has played out in your life countless times before. A pattern of desire, fulfillment, and then new desire. Now, open your eyes and look around you, taking in the present moment, the light in the room, the sound of your breath, the sensation of your body in contact with the chair. Notice how these things are already here, already available, and how they can bring you a sense of peace and contentment if you allow them to. This is not to say that you should never have desires or goals, but that you should not mistake them for the source of lasting happiness. The Buddha said, "Desire is the root of suffering." This does not mean that all desire is bad. There is a difference between healthy desire, which motivates us to grow and contribute to the world, and craving, which is a clinging to things that are impermanent. Craving is what causes suffering because it sets up an impossible expectation that the impermanent can be made permanent, that the unsatisfactory can be made perfectly satisfying, that the non-self can be made into a fixed, independent self. Ling Yun's verse speaks to the end of this craving. Since that moment, I saw the peach blossoms. From that day to this, all doubt has vanished. He no longer doubts that happiness is found in the present moment, in the ability to see the world as it is, without the filter of desire. He has realized that the sword of enlightenment he has been seeking for 30 years is not an external tool, but a way of seeing, a way of being in the world. This evening, I invite you to practice seeing the world as Ling Yun did, as a place of beauty and wonder, where enlightenment is present in every moment if you have eyes to see it. Take a few moments to sit with a flower, a leaf, or any other object from nature, and really look at it without judgment or desire. See it as it is, in all its impermanent beauty. Notice how this practice affects your state of mind, whether it brings you a sense of peace, of contentment, of wonder. You might also try a simple meditation on desire. Sit quietly and notice the desires that arise in your mind without acting on them or judging them. See them as mental events, like clouds passing through the sky. Allow them to come and go without clinging to them or pushing them away. This practice can help you develop a healthier relationship with desire, recognizing it as a natural part of being human without letting it control your life. As we prepare to leave this valley of peach blossoms, take a moment to listen to the stream as it flows toward the horizon. Let it remind you of the flow of life, of the impermanence of all things, and of the beauty that is present in each moment if you are willing to see it. The moon in the water may be an illusion, but the beauty of the reflection is real. The flower in the mirror may not be tangible, but the joy it brings is genuine. In the same way, the happiness we seek is not found in the objects of our desire, but in the ability to appreciate the beauty of life as it is. In this moment, peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us move now from the Valley of Peach Blossoms to a serene Zen monastery nestled between mist-covered mountains. The air here is crisp and clean, carrying the faint scent of pine and cypress. Morning light filters through the mist, casting a soft glow over the wooden buildings and the carefully tended gardens. In the center of the courtyard, a stone fountain trickles gently, its water reflecting the sky like a liquid mirror. Seated in a small pavilion overlooking the garden is Dongshan Liangjie, also known as Dongshan Liangjie, a Zen master whose teachings on the interconnectedness of all things would have a profound influence on the development of Zen Buddhism. His posture is relaxed yet alert, his eyes fixed on a single flower blooming in the garden below. In his hands, he holds a scroll on which is written his famous Baojing Sanmei, or Precious Mirror Samadhi, a poetic exposition of the unity of all phenomena. A group of disciples sits around him, their faces filled with reverence and curiosity. They have come to hear Dongshan expound on the Precious Mirror Samadhi, a text that many find mysterious and difficult to understand. Master, one disciple asks, his voice soft with hesitation, what does it mean when you say, one is all is one? How can a single flower be the entire garden, the entire mountain, the entire universe? Dongshan looks up from the flower, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. Look at this flower, he says, gesturing to the bloom below. Is it separate from the soil that nourishes it? From the rain that waters it? From the sun that gives it light? From the bee that pollinates it? Without any of these things, the flower would not exist, and yet, the flower is not merely the sum of these parts. It is something more, something that contains within it the entire web of life that supports it. He pauses, allowing his words to sink in. In the same way, he continues, you are not separate from the air you breathe, the food you eat, the people who have loved you, the earth that sustains you. You are a part of a vast, interconnected web of life in which every part is dependent on every other part. To see yourself as separate is an illusion that causes suffering, that creates feelings of loneliness and isolation. The disciples listen intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of confusion and understanding. But Master, another disciple asks, if we are all one, why do we experience ourselves as separate? Why do we feel loneliness, alienation, a sense that we do not belong? Dongshan smiles gently. Because we have forgotten our true nature, he says. We have become trapped in the illusion of the separate self, the idea that I am a distinct, independent entity, separate from you and from the world around us. This illusion is like a cloud covering the sun. It obscures our vision, preventing us from seeing the unity that underlies all things. But just as the sun is always shining behind the cloud, the unity of all things is always present, waiting for us to remember. As you sit in that pavilion, breathing in the crisp mountain air and listening to Dongshan's words, you feel a sense of expansion, as if the boundaries of your own self are dissolving, merging with the world around you. You begin to see that the feeling of separation is indeed an illusion, that you are connected to the flower in the garden, to the mist on the mountains, to the disciples sitting around Dongshan, to all beings everywhere, in ways that are both obvious and profound. The Buddha taught, inseparably united are all phenomena. They have no independent existence. This teaching points to the interconnectedness of all things, the way in which every phenomenon arises in dependence on other phenomena, like a net of jewels in which each jewel reflects all the others. There is no isolated self or other, only a dynamic, interconnected web of life in which every part affects and is affected by every other part. In modern psychology, this sense of interconnectedness is essential to our well-being. Research has shown that feelings of loneliness and isolation can have a profound negative impact on our physical and mental health, increasing the risk of depression, anxiety, and even physical illness. These feelings arise when we perceive ourselves as separate from others, as disconnected from the world around us. But when we recognize our interconnectedness, we experience a sense of belonging, of wholeness, of being part of something larger than ourselves. This sense of interconnectedness is not just a philosophical idea, it is a biological reality. Our bodies are made up of cells that were once part of other organisms, plants, animals, even other humans. The oxygen we breathe is produced by plants. The food we eat comes from the earth. The thoughts we think are shaped by the language and culture we inherit from those who came before us. We are, in every sense, made of the world around us, and we are constantly exchanging matter and energy with it. Let's take a moment to connect with this reality. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in. As you breathe in, imagine that you are drawing in the air that has been breathed by countless beings, humans, animals, plants, throughout history. Imagine that this air contains the life force of the entire planet, flowing into your body, nourishing every cell. Now, exhale. As you exhale, imagine that you are releasing air that will be breathed by other beings, that will nourish plants, that will become part of the vast cycle of life on this planet. Imagine that your breath is connecting you to all beings everywhere, past, present, and future. As you continue to breathe, feel this connection deepening. Feel how your body is made of the earth, of the same elements that make up the mountains, the oceans, the stars. Feel how your life is dependent on the sun, the moon, the seasons, the cycles of nature. Feel how your thoughts and feelings are shaped by the people around you, by the culture you live in, by the entire history of human civilization. In this moment, there is no separate you, only a vast, interconnected web of life, of which you are an integral part. This is the truth of one is all is one, not as a metaphor, but as a lived reality. The Buddha said, just as a single drop of water is part of the ocean, and the ocean is in every drop, so too are all beings part of the Buddha nature, and the Buddha nature is in all beings. This is the essence of Dongshan's precious mirror samadhi, the recognition that the entire universe is reflected in each part of it, that each part contains the whole. When we understand this, we realize that we are never truly alone. Even in moments of physical isolation, we are connected to all beings, to the entire universe. This realization dissolves the fear of separation, the anxiety of alienation, and replaces it with a sense of peace, of belonging, of being home. The disciples in Dongshan's Zen monastery eventually came to understand this truth. They learned to see the world not as a collection of separate objects, but as a single, dynamic whole in which they were fully participating. They found that this understanding brought them a sense of peace and contentment that could not be shaken by external circumstances, because they knew that they were never truly separate, never truly alone. This evening, I invite you to practice recognizing your interconnectedness with all things. Take a few moments to look at an object in your environment, a plant, a cup, a piece of furniture, and trace its connections to the wider world. Where did it come from? Who made it? What materials is it made of? How is it connected to your life, to the lives of others? You might also try a simple meditation on interconnectedness. Sit quietly and bring to mind someone you love. Feel the connection between you, the ways in which you have shaped each other's lives. Then, bring to mind someone you barely know, a neighbor, a stranger on the street, and feel the subtle connections between you, the ways in which your lives are intertwined, even if you're not aware of it. Finally, bring to mind all beings everywhere and feel the vast web of life that connects you to them. As we prepare to leave Dongshan's Zen monastery, take a moment to listen to the trickling of the stone fountain. Let it remind you of the constant flow of energy and matter that connects all things, of the way in which every part of the universe is in constant communication with every other part. You are not a separate, isolated being. You are a part of this vast, beautiful web of life, and you are always home. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Let us journey now to the final destination of our path, a quiet grove at the foot of the Bodhi tree, where the Buddha attained enlightenment. The air here is charged with a sense of sacredness, as if the very atmosphere holds the wisdom of millennia. Sunlight filters through the leaves, dappling the ground with golden light, and the sound of a distant river echoes softly through the trees. The Bodhi tree itself stands tall and majestic, its branches spreading wide as if offering shelter to all who seek refuge beneath it. Sitting beneath the tree, cross-legged on a bed of soft grass, you feel a sense of coming home. This is not just a physical place, but a state of being, a return to the source, to the ground of all existence. As you close your eyes, you can almost feel the presence of the Buddha, sitting here 2,500 years ago, as he opened his eyes at dawn and realized the truth of all things. The Buddha's realization can be summed up in his teaching. To see dependent origination is to see the Dharma. To see the Dharma is to see dependent origination. Dependent origination, or pratityasamutpada in Sanskrit, is the understanding that all phenomena arise in dependence on other phenomena. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interconnected, interdependent, and constantly changing. This is the truth that has been woven through all the stories we have explored on our journey. It is the empty cup of non-in, which is both empty and full, dependent on the absence of attachment to be filled with wisdom. It is the wind and flag of Hui Nung, which arise together, neither one existing without the other. It is the ordinary mind of Mazu, which is no different from the enlightened mind, arising in dependence on the circumstances of each moment. It is the withered and flourishing bamboo of Baizhang, which are part of a single cycle of growth and decay. It is the mirror of Shengxiu, which reflects whatever is before it, dependent on the absence of dust to show a clear image. It is the raindrops and stone steps of the young monk, which work together, each dependent on the other, to teach the lesson of patience. It is the dog and its Buddha nature in Zhao Zhou's Quan, which challenge the illusion of separation between self and other. It is the peach blossoms of Ling Yun, which arise in dependence on the season, the soil, the rain, and yet contain within them the entire universe. It is the interconnected web of Dongshan's precious mirror samadhi, in which one is all and all is one. All these stories point to the same truth. Our original face, our true nature, is not something we need to seek, to create, or to attain. It is already present, here and now, as the very ground of our being. It is the awareness that observes the thoughts, the emotions, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. It is the emptiness that is full of potential, the silence that contains all sounds, the stillness that underlies all movement. In modern psychology, this is sometimes referred to as the observing self, the part of us that is aware of our thoughts and feelings without being identified with them. Research has shown that cultivating awareness of this observing self can reduce anxiety, depression, and stress, and increase feelings of peace, happiness, and well-being. It is the part of us that remains constant, even as our thoughts and feelings change, like the sky that remains unchanged, even as clouds pass through it. The Buddha said, "What you are is what you have been. What you will be is what you do now." This is not a statement of determinism, but of responsibility. It is an acknowledgement that our current experience is shaped by our past actions, thoughts, and intentions, and that our future experience will be shaped by what we do now. It is the understanding that we are both products of our past and creators of our future, part of an unbroken chain of cause and effect that stretches back to the beginning of time and forward to the end. But even this chain is not separate from us. We are part of it, woven into it, and it is woven into us. Our original face is both the chain and the awareness of the chain, both the dancer and the dance. It is the dependent origination that is the Dharma, and the Dharma that is dependent origination. Let's take a moment to rest in this awareness. Close your eyes and allow yourself to sink into the present moment. Notice the sensation of your breath rising and falling. Without effort, notice the sounds around you, the rustle of leaves, the distant river, the beating of your heart. Notice the thoughts that arise and pass away, like clouds in the sky. Now ask yourself, who is aware of these things? The answer is not a thought, not a concept, not a story. It is the awareness itself, the original face that has been with you since before you were born, that will be with you after you die, that is present in every moment, whether you are aware of it or not. This awareness is not something you can grasp, because it is the one doing the grasping. It is not something you can see, because it is the one doing the seeing. It is like the eye that sees everything, but cannot see itself, like the hand that touches everything, but cannot touch itself. And yet, it is not separate from what it sees, from what it touches. It is intimately connected, interdependent, one with all that it experiences. This is the realization that the Buddha attained beneath the Bodhi tree, that his original face, his true nature, is no different from the true nature of all beings, of all phenomena. It is the Dharma, the way things are, the dependent origination that is the fabric of reality. When we realize this, we are freed from the illusion of the separate self. We no longer feel the need to defend ourselves, to prove our worth, to grasp after happiness, or run away from suffering. We recognize that happiness and suffering are both part of the same fabric, dependent on each other, and that our true nature is the awareness that observes them both, untouched by either. This evening, I invite you to practice resting in this awareness. Take a few moments each hour to simply be, to notice your breath, your body, your thoughts, without judgment or attachment. Remember that you are not your thoughts, not your feelings, not your story. You are the awareness that observes them, the original face that is always present, always perfect, always at peace. You might also try a final meditation to integrate all the wisdom we have explored. Sit quietly and bring to mind the empty cup. See yourself as that cup, open and receptive, without attachment to what is inside or outside. Then, bring to mind the wind and flag. See your thoughts and emotions as the wind and flag, moving and changing, but not affecting your true nature. Bring to mind the ordinary mind. See your daily life as the path, each moment perfect and complete, just as it is. Bring to mind the withered and flourishing bamboo. See the cycles of your life, growth and decay, joy and sorrow, as part of a single, beautiful whole. Bring to mind the mirror. See your thoughts and feelings as reflections, not reality, and rest in the clear awareness that is the mirror itself. Bring to mind the raindrops and stone steps. See your efforts and your patience as working together, each dependent on the other to shape your life. Bring to mind the dog and its Buddha nature. Let go of the illusion of separation and rest in the unity of all beings. Bring to mind the peach blossoms. See the beauty of each moment, the perfection of what is, without desire or craving. Bring to mind the interconnected web of life. Feel your connection to all beings, to the entire universe, and rest in the peace of belonging. Finally, rest in the awareness of your original face, the awareness that has been with you throughout this journey, that is with you now, that will always be with you. This is your true nature, the Dharma, dependent origination, the Buddha nature that is in all things. As we prepare to end our journey beneath the Bodhi tree, take a moment to feel the ground beneath you, the air around you, the life within you. All of these are part of the same fabric, the same dependent origination, the same Dharma. You are not separate from them, not separate from the Buddha beneath this tree, not separate from any being anywhere. You are home. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. As we traverse this forest of Zen stories, the truths of letting go, accepting, and awakening have seeped into your heart like morning dew. May these truths continue to nourish your soul in your dreams and guide every step of your waking life. Peace comes from within. Peace comes from within. Peace is always within you. Thank you for sharing this journey from Zen Mind Temple. Good night, dear traveler.